pick up, well, I shouldn't say this, I'll get in trouble. I get a phone call at work, and who's on the other end of the line but Tom Rush, who I'd never met. I'd seen him probably 100 times in my life before that. And he was calling because he was wondering if there was an internship program that his fabulous daughter, Sienna, could apply for. And she not only applied, she was our intern, I don't think for 1 year, for 2 years she came back again. Wonderfully talented woman who's now working on the plight of women journalists in Washington, D.C., around the world, but through Washington, D.C. She's fabulous. But you wrote the song to Sienna like years ago, right? Wait, we got is the mic on? Say it again. Oh, you got to put your headset on, it appears. We're just told. Sorry, apologies. Okay, here he is again. As we were saying, when did you write this thing?
I wrote it when she was a baby, and you know, I didn't think anybody outside the family would be interested in it, so I kind of put it aside. But then I did it a couple of times on stage, and people do seem to like it. So it's actually now a lot of people. Everybody has a different favorite song off the new album, but this is a pretty.
What does she think of it when you
strong.
sang it when she heard you sing it recently for the first time? What'd she think?
She liked it.
It's not a hell of an endorsement that she liked it. Well, it's great. Sienna's song dedicated to his wonderful daughter, Sienna, the great Tom Rush. Does he need the headset to perform? He doesn't.
Oh, Sienna baby's dancing, arms are waving, feet are prancing, to a music only she can hear. Round and round the room she goes, follows where her music flows, a laughing, shining bubble in the air. No Sienna baby's eating, at her feet a dog is waiting, hoping for a treat, or maybe two. Spaghetti, Jell-O, Cheerios, tomato soup and ice cream cone. The room's a different place when she is through. No Sienna, where's your nose? Where's your fingers? Where's your toes? Now the time it goes and flows away. Oh, Sienna, precious moments. Oh, how soon you'll be a woman. Today is so long ago and far away. Sienna's playing in the garden. She loves to watch the sky for airplanes. She laughs and claps and waves and cries bye-bye. This garden's old, the flowers new. A flash of sunlight in the dew. A light so bright can bring tears to your eye. And oh, Sienna baby's bathing. Ducks and turtles, frogs are swimming, laughing, splashing bubbles all around. And oh, Sienna baby's reading. Pooh and Tigger, Bert and Ernie. It's better when the book is upside down. And oh, Sienna, where's your nose? Where's your fingers, where's your toes? And how the time it goes and flows away. Oh, Sienna, precious moments. Oh, how soon you'll be a woman. Today is so long ago and far away. And oh, Sienna, baby's sleeping. And how I wonder what she's dreaming. Dogs and ducks and planes and ice cream cones. And in her sleep the baby's dancing. I can almost hear her music. The whole world's spinning, twirling round and round. Tomorrow's coming on an airplane, and we will meet it in the morning, and we shall see what presents it might bring. And we shall see what we shall see, and it will be what it will be. And until then, my darling, dance and dream. And oh, Sienna, where's your nose? Where's your fingers? Where's your toes? How the time it goes and flows away. And oh, Sienna, precious moments. Oh, how soon you'll be a woman. Today is so long ago and far away. far away and long ago, and so the story's often told. It always starts with once upon a time. And I'll pray it ends with ever after. Lots of music, love, and laughter. A laughing, shining baby by your side. Now, Sienna, where's your nose? Where's your fingers? Where's your toes? And how the time, it goes and flows away.
Sienna's song from Bavaria's favorite son, Tom Rush. The new CD and album, Gardens Old, Flowers New. The formal release date, March 1st.
We checked. There's still, you're right, Tom, there are still tickets, a couple of tickets.
TomRush.com?
TomRush.com, not very many, but there are a few left. And
It's albums. It's not only albums, to me, means a collection of songs. There are CDs and LPs.
That's right.
LPs, my apologies.
CDs and LPs.
And
Ken from Westford just texted to thank you for the Mackenzie and Mara long neck guitar you gave to his grandson. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was a kid, a 15-year-old, Oliver. I don't know the guy, but he's a kid of a family, a friend of my girlfriend, and he needed a guitar, so I got Mackenzie and Mar, who make my Naked Lady guitars, out of Montreal to send him one, and he's a good player. I saw a little video.
So why don't you get yourself a new guitar? Your guitar is like ratty. It's got holes. I'm serious. There are holes in it. I mean, what is up with that?
I love it. You want to pick a fight?
No, I do not want to pick a fight. So Tom Rush is very generous with his time with us, comes whenever we invite him. I always worry that he's sitting there saying, let's hope they're not going to ask us the Joni Mitchell question again. We're not going to talk to you about you meeting her in Detroit, asking her if she could write a few songs. She's wrote them quickly at home. She sends you songs, said they're really not that good, I'm sorry. And of course, one of them is Circle Game, ends up being the album Circle Game by Tom Rush. But when you see Joni Mitchell, who I think is arguably the greatest talent of our lifetimes, after she had her stroke, and I don't know, I think she's 80 or whatever, and back at the Grammys, winning a Grammy, she was at Newport. What's that do for you, seeing her?
Well, I'm very, very happy that she's making her way back. Because when I last saw her, it was a few years ago, and she was up and about, but she needed help moving around, and mind as sharp as a tack. I mean, she was correcting me. I misremembered some things about the days in Detroit, and she was saying, no, it didn't happen that way.
When you, I said I wasn't going to ask about it, but I've never asked this part of it. When you first heard, I think it was 6 songs she sent you, and with a note, again, that these are not great, my apologies. When you first heard Circle Game, the first time you heard it, well, do you remember what you felt?
Well, actually, the first time I heard it, she came into this club in Detroit.
Oh, and was singing it there.
And she sang 4 songs. She was auditioning for me, basically, hoping that I might record some of her brand new songs.
That's incredible.
Just started writing. And Urge for Going was one of those tunes.
Yeah, which is great. Which is a great song.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, I knew about that song, but I didn't know about this this train across Canada with the Grateful Dead, the band, Janis Joplin, the Flying Burrito Brothers, and what was that about? And how did you wind up skinny dipping with Janis?
I knew that would come up.
I can't talk about that.
You can't talk about
yes,
that?
you can.
Okay.
Okay, this rich guy in Canada, heir to the department store fortune, I'm blanking on the name, decided it'd be a great idea to hire a private train, and go from coast to coast doing stadium shows along the way. And it actually started in Toronto and ended in Calgary. But we drank the train dry like 4 hours out of Toronto, made them stop at this little podunk town, and went into the liquor store and bought everything.
Everything.
Every bottle on every shelf.
Yeah.
Went back to the train and continued on. And it was a really an amazing experience.
So how old were you then? About like 25, 30?
I was probably pushing 30.
Yeah, pushing 30.
At
But he said,
that
what
time.
kind of reporter are you? He says he won't talk about Janis Joplin, and you just accept that?
Well, I'm getting on to Janis Joplin.
Oh, you're leading back
I do
to
want
it?
to know how you all wound up in the pool.
Okay, well, we got to Calgary, and it was a bit odd because it was the same week as the Calgary Stampede, the biggest rodeo on the planet.
I did not know that.
And so there were all these cowboys and all these hippies, long-haired hippies mingling. And it didn't work out well.
It did not work out
No.
well. Oh, no.
But the skinny dipping part, the guys who were promoting this hired the local swimming pool just so we could go swimming. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
And it was closed to the public. And of course, all the hippies wanted to go skinny dipping. And the guys that owned the pool were horrified, but they couldn't stop us. It was our pool. And they did have one rule, though, that they enforced hard and fast, which was anybody with long hair, which was everybody, had to wear a bathing cap.
That's a great image.
And something that is seared into my mind, I cannot get rid of it, is seeing Leslie West of Mountain
Right.
coming out of the changing room wearing nothing but a bathing cap over his afro and a second bathing cap upside down over his beard.
He was a big guy.
He was
He was a
gigantic.
giant.
Yeah. So are you still doing the Rockport Sundays? You did they're still going on?
Yes.
They're fabulous.
I've been doing this online series, folks. You can go to tomrush.com for everything in the world, but sign up for Rockport Sundays. It's every Sunday we post an episode, about 15 minutes long, and it's usually me and a guest. We chat a little and we each sing a song, and then they're up for 8 weeks. And it's a subscription series, and it actually got me through the pandemic.
Yeah, because, I mean,
It's great. It's really
disaster
great.
for somebody that does what you do, the
Yeah.
pandemic.
By the way, I get it. You get it at midnight on Saturday night. You wake up. If you're up late, you can listen to it late. If not, you wake up the next morning, and it's really total joy. You know, I didn't know you in the beginning of your meteoric career. Were you like an a-hole then, or were you like as nice a guy as you are now? I'm serious.
I've always been perfect.
Okay, well, that answers the question.
We
You're
gotta
going to
get to a
perform
song.
again. What are you playing this time?
This is the last song on the album. It's called I Quit.
Oh, this is great. This is Tom Rush. Again, the new album, as he calls it, Gardens Out, Flowers New. I can hold up the LP version if somebody wants to, whatever.
Here's the back.
Whatever. Gardens Old, Flowers New. It's out officially March 1st. By the way, tomorrow night at the Narrows in Fall River, which Marjorie tells me is a beautiful place.
It is. It's a great
the
place.
Official release of the album.
Right,
whatever
the album isn't out officially until the 1st of March, but you can get it at tomrush.com.
There we go, tomrush.com.
And you can also get tickets. I hope you can get tickets for the Narrows. As of an email I got this morning, it wasn't quite sold out.
Okay.
TomRush.com. And here he is playing I Quit.
Here we go. Little Joni Mitchell tribute.
Okay.
That's it. I quit. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Out the door and down the road. I do believe I'm done. I'm done. I'm gone. This is me waving bye-bye. This fire's gone out. The stove's stone cold and I got fish to fry. I can't find the love, can't feel the thrill. If there's hell to pay, ooh, send me the bill. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. 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 That's it. I quit. I'm out of here just like that. I'm fresh out of reasons why I should take this crap. I think I'll slide on down the road. Won't be coming by no more. But don't be bothered, hey, don't get up. I can find the door. I can't find the love, can't feel the thrill. If there's hell to pay, ooh, send me the bill. I'm gone, I'm gone, I'm gone, 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 gone. You better bet I'm gonna jet. Right now ain't soon enough. They say the tough get going, but when the going gets tough. But don't be acting so surprised. You're reaping what you've been sowing. What I'm saying, what I mean, I got the urge for going. I can't find the love, can't feel the thrill. If there's hell to pay, ooh, send me the bill. I'm gone, I'm gone, I'm gone, 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 gone.
Tom Rush. Hey, before you go, is Matt Nakoa with you in Fall River? Is Matt Nakoa, you need a headset. Is Matt Nakoa with you in Fall River?
Yes, he
You can't hear Tom. He is. Let me just tell you, Matt Nakoa is not just Tom's accompanist, but he is a young, brilliant musician, and Tom is always kind enough to give the stage to Matt for a little guitar work, a little piano work, a lot of singing. He is brilliant. Matt Nakoa and Tom Rush at the Narrows. Go to tomrush.com quickly.
He's the guy that came up with the title for the album.
Oh, he did?
There you go.
Gardens Old, Flowers New is a line that's on two of the songs. But he pointed out that he didn't tell me I'm old, but he said, "You're no spring chicken."
Yes.
But you're coming up with great new songs.
You are.
So I'm the old garden, the song to the new flowers.
Love it. Tom Rush, it's wonderful to see you.
TomRush.com.
Thanks for having me
It's going
on.
to be tomorrow night at Fall River Narrows Center for the Arts on March 8th at City Winery in Boston. Proceeds going to the Pine Street Inn. Go to tomrush.com for tickets. There are a few of them left and any other information. Okay. Thank you so much to Tom Rush. After the noon news, going to be joined by GBH's Callie Crossley on the story out of Texas where a kid got in trouble and isn't even able to go to school because he's got hair on the top of his head wrapped neatly around his head and brains, and also neo-Nazis outside Governor Moore Healey's house. Callie Crossley is ahead. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live excuse me, from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
What ranked choice voting allows any voter to do, regardless of their political ideology, is to help voters, help communities actually elect the person who is able to build consensus so that hopefully they can end up getting the job done.
Eastern Brownie, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. We are broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. Jenny Slate, another one of our favorites, Oscar nominated. 2 of her films were nominated for an Oscar. Won actually last year. Joins us to talk about her new special that is airing tonight on Amazon Prime. That'll be in the 1 o'clock hour, Tuesday at the library. 11 to 12, the Attorney General joins us for an hour. Noon to 1, the Governor joins us for an hour. And starting April 6th, which is a Wednesday, we're here at the library, not 2 days, but 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And my apologies, I just forgot, so don't be angry. You do need tickets and you do need RSVP, or you don't?
You do not. You do not need either.
You don't need a ticket?
You do not need a ticket. You do not need...
None of you have tickets?
No, you can come here and just
that is
stroll
unbelievable.
in and stay for as little or as long as you like.
Okay,
Absolutely.
fine. Joining us at the desk, she didn't have a ticket either, is GBH's Callie Crossley, host of
snuck
Under
in.
the Radar with Callie Crossley. You can catch her on Sunday nights right here on 89.7 at 6. She does her Callie commentaries on Mondays for GBH's Morning Edition, is obviously a host of the Great Culture Show, which airs daily at 2 o'clock right after us. Hello, Callie Crossley.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie.
Hello.
Hello, Callie Crossley. So we talked to you before about Daryl George. He's this 18-year-old in Texas who wears his hair on his head wrapped around in a very neat fashion. But he got the shaft, if you ask me, from a judge involving his hair and the Crown Act. Tell people about this.
So he's at a school called the Barbers High School, and the school has a policy that says for men, the male student hair cannot be below his eyebrows or earlobes. Daryl George is black. He wears his hair in locks. Now, normally locks are down, but he doesn't have his down. They're up. Mm-hmm. They're nowhere near his earlobes. They're all the way up on the top of his head. Very neat, as Marjorie has said. And they're nowhere near his eyebrows. So on its face, this school rule should have had nothing to do with him, but yet they suspended him, saying he was violating the school rules. So then Texas has just put in the Crown Act, which is an act to prevent, allegedly, to prevent discrimination against hairstyles and black people. This would be a perfect case, and yet they take it to court. The act is in place, and the judge says that what the Barbers Hill High School did not violate the act. So I'm just confused all the way around. Now, here's 3 little words that apparently are at issue. It says the hair cannot be below eyebrows or earlobes. Listen to this. When let down.
Down. Yeah.
His hair is not down. So what are we talking about here? It's like if he goes home and takes his hair down, somehow he's in violation. I just don't get it.
You know, the part of this discussion that bothers me both times is, even though I agree with every word you've said, is it's almost like we have a policy discussion. This kid who I've seen interviewed, has been out of school
And
like
he's
for
very
months.
upset
And
about it.
listen to this. So Representative Darrell George, that's the young man's family, speaking to reporters after this ruling in Texas. Listen to this.
Darrell made this statement and told me this straight up with tears in his eyes. All because of my hair. I can't get my education because of my hair. I cannot be around other peers and enjoy my junior year because of my hair.
You know, we talk about something like this almost every day. How can a human being do this to another human being? And by the way, the superintendent in the school district is relentless.
Right.
He's the one who took out the full page ad, I
page
assume
ad.
paid for with taxpayers'
Right.
dollars, to say the correctness of their position. And this kid is crying because all he wants to do is go to school.
I want to be clear about the ad that he took out. It was more than the correctness of his position. He made a statement akin to, "You are un-American." If you, this is the way my hair grows out of my head. So, what statement are you making about my being un-American? I think we can see what his real meaning is, and that would be addressing Darrell George and the rest of us as well. I mean, this is insane on so many levels, and the fact that there's no hair according to the rules. It's nowhere near breaking the rules. So I say to myself, then if you're a white kid with long hair, could you pin your hair up? And then I'm not.
I would bet the answer is yes. I do not know, but I
mean,
would bet that that kid would not have been suspended from this particular
This doesn't
school.
make any sense.
It's a horrible story. You know, speaking of un-American, let's come back to...
They're going to appeal, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so just
Come
wanna
back
say
to
that.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
The neo-Nazis, who are so strongly believe in their people of color, anti-LGBTQ agenda, anti-migrant agenda, that they cover their faces so nobody knows who they are. Back at Maura Healey's house just a couple of days ago, and they do, as long as they don't do things that are violative of the rights of the people who are there protesting. And in some cases, Andrea Campbell, the AG, says they have, and she's bringing action. But they can do what they're doing in their own cowardly way, right?
Yes, they can, no matter how weird and scary. And then remember, you know, the governor lives among others,
Yes.
so it's impacting the neighborhood, similar to what was happening to Mayor Wu as well. This is really scary, and I'll note that the Washington Post did a story about this reporter, Jordan Green, who's been covering neo-Nazis, and they are targeting his house and him, and threatening all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is what even folks that you would assume would be protected from this. I bring this up all the time. Mitt Romney, I've had to institute a security force because he disagreed with some policy issues, and now these people are responding in this, if not violent way, implied violent way is what you're dealing with.
And is there any question, I know a lot of Trump fans who listen to our show, and they do, are upset when I say the following, or Marjorie says, it's all because of Trump.
Right.
This happened occasionally to a journalist or a politician, but it never happened on the scale it happens now.
Right.
Because violence is a permitted language for people who support Donald Trump, who feel that they were done wrong. Rather than having a dialogue, violence and terror and all this kind of crap is acceptable. It's just unbelievable.
It really is. And then some people actually, I don't know about this neo-Nazi group, they have their own, people to hate without adding Donald Trump into it with it. But some people feel like they're acting on the former president's behalf when they respond in this way.
Well, especially since this was an anti-migrant thing, which
right.
obviously is Trump's calling card.
So let's change topic here and hear from when she was back 11 years old, Hadiya Broadbent, who was born, her mother was drug addicted. She wound up getting AIDS. But here she is back when she was speaking on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1996 at age 11, talking about growing up with HIV/AIDS.
I don't tell myself like, oh, you have AIDS, or I could go outside and get hit by a bus tomorrow. And you never know. If you stay in your bed and feel sorry for yourself and don't get up with the birds and just sit there and say, I'm gonna die, why get up and try and make a difference? Mm-hmm. But when you say, well, today's another day, I can get up, I can do something, make something positive.
Oh, does that break your
Oh,
heart?
it
Yeah.
does.
Oh, my
Because
God.
I remember her being 7 and on that kids show with Magic Johnson and saying to him, "We're just normal people." Oh my God! And he almost broke down. Everybody broke down.
And he's HIV positive,
Right.
for those who don't
Yeah.
know, obviously. Yeah.
So,
and the thing
fast
was,
forward-
she wasn't supposed to live this long.
No,
Yeah,
she just
yeah.
died at 39 years old. But what a crusader for people that. But she also talked about too that it's not like you're just going through life
Right.
carefree. The kind of, and Magic Johnson talked about this too. The medicines you have to take, the pills you have to take, the side effects they may have, the reality of the toll it takes on you. So it was not an easy life, obviously. Either.
No, and she wanted to make the point while she was out being the strong advocate that she was, it's not as simple as taking a pill and we're all cured and everything's great. You know, there's more to it than this and just trying to survive. And people, because what was happening, and we've seen some of that, is people thought, well, if I get it, I could get the pill and I'm good, right? And she wanted to make clear that no, you would not be good, but wow, she spent all of her young life, I mean, 39 is still young, fighting to make people understand this disease and pay attention and be respectful and kind to the people who found themselves with it.
When you
Yeah.
hear such strength and courage coming out of a little 11-year-old's body,
Yeah.
can you
No.
imagine
No.
having that perspective on the world and your own mortality and the role you have being on the planet to others? I mean, it's just
Being poised enough to,
It's just
bring it together.
really, what a
And she was
beautiful
adopted
person.
at 6 weeks old,
Yeah.
too. So her parents, I'm sure, are quite impressive people as well. They don't write much about them, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they obviously are. So let's move on to somebody that's not very impressive. That would be the former president of the United States. He owes a lot of money now, almost $500 million. And what's he doing about it?
Well, somebody started a GoFundMe for him, and laugh if you wish, but they raised $500,000 in 3 days. It could probably be more now. We didn't check it right before it came on. This is to pay back the $355 million that he's supposed to pay back for his New York fraud.
450 million counting interest.
Well,
Let's
that's
be
right.
clear.
That is
yes.
true. And the interest keeps growing.
As it does,
At
87,000 a
9%,
day.
At 9%,
Yep.
every day that he, does not comply and pay for it. So this is pretty impressive. There are people that gave $10,000, people that donated $500. Lots of folks feel very strongly this is a political persecution, and this is their statement about it. Somebody remarked, or a few somebodies remarked, that they're rich enough, pay for it yourself, and then why let the little people bail you out? I mean, which I think is a comment to
Well,
make.
I was telling Jim, I was listening to the Daily this morning, my favorite podcast, and they were talking about how he's going to solve his money problems. And one of the fortunate things, or hopeful things, if you're not a fan of the former president, I certainly am not, is that it costs about $1 billion to run a national presidential campaign in 2023. This is $500 million, which is money that might be going to help him run his campaign. Biden has a much bigger war chest. And their point is that the little people who have been asked repeatedly, no matter how many pairs of those ridiculous gold sneakers they may have bought, who've been asked repeatedly, you wonder at some point, does the wallet run a little dry here? Do they get tired of donating? So I found that maybe a little bit hopeful, but maybe I'm just being wishful thinking.
Well, again, remember, I know I've said this 15 times here, but because I'm constantly confused about these high-priced lawyers, and they are high-priced that are at various levels representing him, because we know that he does not pay his bills. He does not pay bills. So I kept saying to all folks who know better than me, some of the political analysts, and they say other people pay for it. So this could be a situation. In this instance, it's a GoFundMe, so we really are talking about, generally speaking, people with lower income that it would take to pay off all his debt. But there are some deep-pocketed folks that I could get together and do a high-level GoFundMe and pay it all off.
Well, he also, we have Judge Gardner with us on Monday, and we're going to ask her a question that we don't know the answer to, is whether he can use campaign funds and Republican National Committee funds to pay the $500 million fine. What we do know is he can use that money to pay his legal fees. So even though he is a human, which I use the term advisedly in quotes, never pays anybody, including his lawyers, he's taking funds from his campaign and others. And it's amazing to me, a person who donates to Trump's campaign, I assume is all right with the fact that he's using the money to pay his legal bills to keep him out of jail. I guess the answer is yes. But has anyone ever defined grifting better in the history of the world? Better than this guy? I mean, there's a money scam. Forget the fraud and Letitia James outed, obviously, in the court there in New York. And by the way, my one political prediction, all of which are wrong, that was right, is the judge did deny Trump yesterday
I was so
a 30-day extension to come up with a $450 million so that he can appeal the verdict.
One last thing for me on this is that the not so hopeful theory is that because he's not president, at least not yet, that he can do a lot of deals with like Saudi Arabia or other countries.
Russia, how about that?
Could, he absolutely could, because they would see this as an opportunity to make him beholden to them once he gets in office. So they would do these kind of deals now while they could. Now, he's got that former federal judge, Barbara, whatever her name is, who's overlooking his companies in New York.
City,
Right.
And she's going to, which must really annoy him, have to approve everything that they do with the businesses in New York. I don't know how that impacts doing deals with foreign nations based elsewhere in the United States. I don't know. So, but
probably not now, but it could later.
Yeah,
because if you have a deal, it's not going to end should you be reelected. You know what I mean? It'll be ongoing.
Well,
right?
he made a lot of money from foreign countries while he was the president last time. He was in violation of the constitutional emoluments prohibition, but no one ever did anything about that. So
Can we do one more Trump thing? I wasn't going to do this, but since we're on Trump and we're really talking about money, I know this will shock nobody who supports him, and I assume they'll all applaud this. Here is this alt-right conspiracy theorist, Jack Posobiec, I believe is how his name is pronounced. He's speaking at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, on Wednesday. You'll hear what he has to say, which again I assume is fine with Trump supporters. And the last word you'll hear is an amen from Trump's brain, namely Steve Bannon. Here it is.
Okay.
Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
So let me ask the same stupid question I ask every day. If a Trump voter was confronted with, let's pick either of your scenarios, a $500 billion loan from President Xi or the murderous Putin, or here's this line about we're here to end democracy, amen, says Steve Bannon. Is there one Trump voter who will say, I'm no longer supporting him, even though he's beholden to China or Russia or his agenda is? Nobody, right? Nobody.
I think it depends on, because as I said earlier, a lot of people believe all of this had nothing to do with him. It's all political.
Joe Biden did it. Yep.
So whoever did it, but it wasn't him. So if you were there, then you're behind the president and you think this is all fine. Now, I don't know. Here's something that I think we could all do a better job of, we that mean journalists. I think when we say democracy, we have to start defining what that looks like.
absolutely,
In very real terms
What does
to
it mean?
people.
Your vote doesn't count. I mean, go
Right.
into detail.
Because people say we're going to overthrow democracy, and somebody, they can laugh and go, amen. But do you understand what he's saying? I don't think you do. And so if we speak about it in those terms, at least people will be aware of this is a choice you're making. You can still make the same choice, but understand what it is that really happens if democracy is overthrown.
But I totally agree with that. And that's Marjorie says those kind of things all the time, that we have to be precise. However, and while I agree with you, this guy, whatever his name is, we didn't get all the way there on January 6th.
Yes.
We know what there was on January 6th and what the goal was, and they want to finish the job. So be precise. I agree. And you know what really has been helpful, even though I'm not sure anybody reads these things except for people who are already convinced? Those in the responsible media who've been doing Trump in his own words, what his plans are for a second term is really. Remember when Globe did that fake front page? Trump's elected and what's going to happen? It was all these horror shows, and a lot of people said it's ridiculous. Of course, 90% of it came true. It's really valuable. It is really valuable, even if it doesn't seep into everybody or maybe even anybody, that kind of journalism happens. Precision, use his own words, believe what he says is what he means to be doing. You know?
And read Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny.
Oh, who was talking about Timothy Snyder 2
several
days
people
ago?
have recommended
Just
that.
this week.
Yeah.
The Yale guy, right?
It's not big. It's about this big. Just small little, and it's scarier and scarier and scarier as you turn each page. And at the time when it came out, it seemed so preposterous, some of the things to me. And then now I'm scared to go look at it again because every damn thing he said.
Well, on that note, can I just mention, there was a guy, I can't think of his name, maybe Jamie, you can remember, guy who wrote the Washington Post, the 2 pieces about what happens. What's his, no, not Klein. That's, who? Kagan, thank you. I don't know what his first name is. Yeah. And he did a thing about how all the guardrails that we depend upon
and assume
disappear. And the one example he gave, which I shook my head at first, is he said, and when the Supreme Court rules against them, as even his own 3 nominees have done a lot, not Clarence Thomas and Alito, of course, for the most part, but his own 3 nominees, he'll just ignore it. And then, I said, well, that's a bit much. And then we see Governor Abbott in Texas, another,
that's right.
Another one of Trump's favorite people, and Trump is one of his, doing exactly what was said in this piece. Yeah. If you don't like what the Supreme Court says, you just do whatever the hell you please.
So will On Tyranny totally ruin my weekend if I read it? Probably will.
It's going to scare you to death because, I interviewed him a few times and I just said, you're the scariest man. And maybe it's 20 pages. I mean, it is not long.
20 pages.
I mean, it is not. No, we're not. We're not talking about
tyranny.
It's a very small book.
Stephanie Grisham, who used to be his press secretary, who obviously knows him pretty well, she wrote a very critical book of him after she got out of the White House. A lot of people that work for Trump have turned critical on him when he got out of the White House. And she's worried about him prosecuting his enemies and just talked about, I don't know.
He said he would do it.
If she's joking or serious about getting out of the country so that she won't be arrested if he becomes the president.
Wait a second. His lawyer, when asked the question by the court, what if the president got, what was it, SEAL Team 6 to murder his political opponents? Would he be immune from that? And the answer was, yeah. I mean, and
a person who knows him very well thinks that is likely to happen.
So believe what he says is the bottom line. What are you doing this Sunday?
Well, we're spending some time with Soraya and Jeremy and Dr. William Darity, who is one of the people interviewed for the podcast series.
Oh, you mean Jerome?
Jerome.
We had Jerome on last week.
Yeah,
he was fabulous.
On the reparations.
Terrific.
What are we? What's it called? What are we owed?
What is owed?
What is owed? Yeah.
It's very powerful, and Dr. Darity from Duke was really powerful in their discussion about the upcoming episodes and the arc of the whole series and where they're trying to go. And the second part of it, a really interesting film from American Experience about stewardesses.
Oh, I saw it.
You did? Isn't it incredible?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is everybody, they were like set up as sex kittens, bubble-headed sex kittens. And it turns out, they're not bubble-headed sex kittens. And they were, in fact, laying the foundation for the women's movement. And some of the pushback that they put in place so that the rest of us writ large could have some of these rights. I mean, it's really an incredible story. And the archival stuff alone is amazing.
Oh, with the Pan Am jets flying around and the outfits everybody wore and how skinny. They were so skinny, these
and all
women.
These restrictions, you couldn't get
married. And the
married.
black woman that went through it and was devastated when because we're not going to, they're going to hire a black woman to be a stewardess. It was really good.
It's really, the archival stuff alone, as I said, is really amazing to see. So that's it.
We'll be listening. Callie Crossley, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Callie Crossley. We've been speaking to Callie Crossley. She's host of Under the Radar with Callie Crossley Sunday nights at 6 o'clock on 89.7. You can hear her Callie commentaries Mondays on GBH's Morning Edition. And she's host for GBH's The Culture Show, which she refuses to tell us anything about. We're going to try to pump Jared Bowen when he's up next.
He's
the
more
Culture
forthcoming,
Show
generally.
does air daily at 2 o'clock, 89.7 GBH. Thanks a lot, Callie.
Thanks, Kelly.
As I just said, after a quick break, Jared Bowen, GBH's host of The Culture Show, is going to join us up next to tell us about The Culture Show, maybe a little hint here or there, plus the latest in arts and culture, including a new take on Moby Dick and something called Winter Experience. at the Boston Opera House. Jared Bowen is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Mark Regan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the Boston Public Library. The streaming is working fine, correct, Jamie? Hello, Jamie. Streaming is fine? Jamie, streaming, well, who knows? Okay, in any case, streaming youtube.com/GBH News, thank you, and facebook.com/GBH News. We're joined now by Jared Bowen, who was just having a private conversation with Marjorie. I'd love to know what they were talking about.
Not telling.
GBH News executive arts editor and host of The Culture Show, which airs daily every single day at 2 o'clock right here on 89.7. Hey, Jared.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you.
So, Jared Bowen, very rudely before the show, Jim Browdy said to me, let's start talking about whether Neanderthals made art. And his addition to that was, why should we even care what the Neanderthals were doing?
Oh, well, you answer both questions. I did say that, yes. And I am not embarrassed by it. I did say it. So did they, and why do we care if they did or did not?
Well, it turns out the Neanderthals very much did make art. So there was a recent discovery of this engraved deer bone in a cave in central Germany. And there were engravings on the bone, which I think maybe years ago people would have thought were accidental scratches or something. But as people start to look at this more, they realize this is a very deliberate design in a chevron pattern. And it also dates back way further than they anticipated, to about 51,000 years ago, which means it was Neanderthals inscribing patterns on bone. There's also Neanderthals that were making marks on caves in France and other places around the world. Neanderthals who were taking eagle talons and affixing themselves as sort of decorative objects. Oh. So this shows us that I think that this means that art is definitely in our DNA. So the scientists don't even want to call it art. They want to call it symbols or pre-art, quote unquote. But I think there's every bit of evidence that for as long as our species and the species before us have existed on the planet, we have tried to make design or representation or use art as a means of communication.
Now, I know that's interesting, and I should be more curious that, and it's really great. It is great to know that they probably were carving a hole in a bone. I mean, that's really, I mean.
Well, I think the point is many holes in a pattern.
Many holes in a pattern in a bone.
That's right,
and
many holes.
Why
Jim.
should I be more excited by this, why should I be more excited about this than I am?
Well, I am excited because, as I say, I think it proves that we've always gravitated toward some means of expression. So this is always what we've done. Art wasn't just created in terms of magnificent paintings in the Renaissance or the contemporary art that you see today in museums or galleries, but it's just something that we've always done, and it's very intentional. And the more it can be pieced together as you look at other parts of the world or communities together, you know that this was a means of transmission.
Okay, one last question. I'm not done.
Okay.
One last question. So if I right now, this is 2024, it is 2024.
Correct.
If I were to carve a hole in a bone, What would you say that was that I had just done? What would you say?
I would say your kindergarten art is fantastic.
Thank you.
Just put a piece of macaroni
I'm
in
sorry.
it and we're done.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Are you interested in this?
I think it is fascinating to know that 30 and 50,000 years ago,
Yeah.
that Neanderthal people did this in their
Neanderthal
caves,
people.
whatever you want to call them. What do you call them? What's the correct word?
Neanderthals. is fine.
Neanderthals, yeah.
Okay, Neanderthals. Okay, they're in their caves in the day or their night, and what are they doing? I mean, they're not on their phones, they're not watching TV.
Exactly.
Obviously.
They're not on their phones.
Yeah, that's right. This is how people lived
Right.
all that time
What
ago.
else
So,
are they going to do other than carve holes in bones? I mean, seriously.
I don't know. Drag people around by the hair? Are those unfair stereotypes?
I think
of
they
the
are, yes.
Cavemen.
I
Were
think-
they dragging people
It's
around by the hair? or not?
anti-Neanderthal rhetoric is what it is. Okay, I'm going to read the thing again, and it is really good news to know.
And I think there were oral traditions probably that were happening, and maybe acting
How do you
out
know that?
perform.
How do you know that?
Because I was there.
He was there. He peeked in the window. So, I mean,
Okay, fine.
we're seeing winter disappear, but nonetheless, there's a winter experience here in Boston going on. We better hurry up and see it while winter is still in existence in Boston. What's happening?
So this is at Boston Ballet. It just opened last night, and it's on view through March 3rd, playing at the Citizens Bank Opera House. And Mikko Nissinen, who is the artistic director of Boston Ballet, has done something really interesting here in bringing together in one evening of programming very contemporary artwork or dance, very contemporary dance by Helen Pickett in two pieces. One is a world premiere, and it's called To Be One. It's 11 dancers, and we see them coming together in all great, joyous, expressive modes of communication. Another piece of hers is Petal, which I just think is full of wonderful energy, these great pastel-colored costumes, very vibrantly lit stage. This is also very contemporary expressions of dance. But the second act of this evening is his reworking, again, his is Mikko Nissinen, the artistic director of Raymonda, which is a ballet that premiered in 1898 in St. Petersburg, but isn't done very much today because it's a very problematic story set in the Crusades about a woman who is essentially kidnapped. There's lots of racism, there's sexism in this piece. So what Mikko Nissinen has done is stripped out the problematic elements and really just celebrated this as a story ballet for what it is in terms of the grand ballet tradition, lots of classical dance movement, big numbers with lots of dancers on stage, completely reimagined set in very neutral colors but very vibrantly colored costumes so that the dancers pop before you.
March 3rd, it's there till, by the way.
You know, that raises an interesting question to me because there were obviously massive amounts of racism, sexism, all these kind of prejudices in art previously. You get artists get criticized for that all the time. What is the thinking now? I mean, Wagner, you know, in
Walt Disney.
in Germany. Yeah, that's right. So how is there a consensus about what to do about that?
No, I don't think there is a consensus, but I think it's iterative. And I think other theater companies, other ballet and dance companies have also done this with Raymonda. And I think, as I look at it, just personally, I think, do I really want to see this on stage? Do I want to see a woman kidnapped and then see these racist tropes on stage? Absolutely not. Do I want to see beautiful dance, beautiful ballet, see the rigor of these athletics on stage? Absolutely. So I think that there is a way to pay homage to some of these traditions, but not having to have us confront these. But there are other stories. I think if you look at a drama, for instance, and I don't have one coming to mind at the moment, but a play that from another time that has some of these issues, sometimes it is worth re-examining or maybe even looking at the piece as it stands still because it reminds you of where we have come as a country, how this was embedded into our society, and why this was once considered a legitimate means of expression.
So do some of the more racist elements of the early, like Dumbo, for example, the early films of Walt Disney, are they, I don't even know, because my kids haven't watched them, obviously, in 25 years, are they amended? Or they play as they were originally done?
I don't know. I feel like they have been, but I can't say for certain.
Okay.
But there has been this conversation in, for instance, the novels of Roald Dahl. And some of this done without the literary estate's knowledge or without
Mark Twain. And that, to me, there's a guy from Auburn or something who's been, I don't know if rewriting is the right word. We've discussed this. I don't know if it was with you in the past, where they've taken out some of the language that's offensive. And I have to say, I'm not totally on board kind of thing. I mean,
I mean, it's case by case basis, and the beauty of this is that you decide whether to participate or not.
Yeah, of
you
course.
decide whether
Right,
to read
that's
or
right.
not, or buy the ticket or not. But it's a good conversation because again, it is part of our history.
You know, before we leave ballet, I couldn't listen to your show yesterday because I was busy on the phone complaining
used to
about
be a
something to Marjorie.
ballet dancer.
No, I mean, I knew you have to do that. So I was talking to her.
You should have
but
seen him.
before I left
His
the building,
pirouettes.
before I left the pas de deux is what I was doing.
Oh, pas de deux,
Before I
excuse
left the
me.
building, I was talking to her buddy Jan Saragami,
Oh,
who brought in
Ukrainians.
2 Ukraine. Were they on your show yesterday?
were on the show, yeah.
Can I tell you?
Oh.
I've said this before to you. I'm not a ballet expert. I think that's the understatement of all time. I'm talking to Jan in the lobby, and these 2 people. I didn't know why she was there waiting for her clients. I guess
Yeah.
as they're walking in, these 2 people walk in. They look like they're both 30 or 32. And if you said to me, "What do they do for a living?" I would say they're 2 ballet,
Ballet
dancers.
dancers.
As they walk into the lobby of the damn building. It is so
Don't you
graceful and
rem-
so beautiful.
Don't you remember we were doing a benefit for
for Silent Spring a few years
It's
ago.
a wonderful organization that
Newton.
links chemicals to breast cancer, and they do great
Household
work.
chemicals, yeah.
Yeah, Silent Spring. But there were these 2. I think they were
Russian.
Were they Russian? Okay.
This is before the invasion of Ukraine, by the way.
And Jim and I were kind of following them around in rather like pervy kind of way, because you just thought,
Couldn't believe how
look
they
at these
move.
2 people. So is that just? I guess that's how you look if you dance all
It is
day
how you
long.
look. It's really exceptional because the posture is always exceptional.
That's
And-
what it
and-
is, by the
yeah,
way. That's a
Yeah,
huge
the
part of it,
posture.
yeah.
That's right.
The posture is exceptional. Everything on stage with dance, of course, is about gesture right down to your fingertips. So the way you hold yourself, that's all by design. You don't just turn it on and off because, of course, you need to keep this. You need to keep your instrument, your tool intact. And so this is what's always struck me about dancers, too. Should we spend a minute talking about, by the way, what they're doing?
go ahead.
Because some of what I'll talk to you about today can hold, but they are doing a performance of Giselle at the Emerson Colonial Theater tonight. So this is a couple who were about to do Giselle outside of Ukraine when the invasion happened. Their kids, they're
Were
very
left there.
their
They
young
told us in
children
Kyiv, they
were
told-
still
yeah.
there. Yeah, so they had to
Oh no.
do this excruciating work and communication to just get their very young children out of Ukraine. Since this couple has now settled here in the United States in Seattle.
With the kids.
With
Yeah.
the kids.
Thank God.
They're safely out. They have been going back and forth to try to help culture keep going there, but they're touring this Giselle 60 cities in the United States, partly to raise money for relief in Ukraine.
Wow.
Sort of like those brilliant, the pianist and cellist we had
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago that played with the Ukrainian National Symphony Orchestra
Yes.
for the same reason, to both raise money and be ambassadors for their country.
And how did
people.
you feel shaking their hands? I felt ashamed.
I felt ashamed too, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
because be from a country that's abandoning
Yes.
them. I
Oh,
felt
yeah.
the same way. So I read Don O'Coin, who's a great writer
Oh,
for the
great.
Globe. His review of Stand Up If You're Here Tonight, and with all due respect to Don, who I'm a huge fan of, I have no idea what this play was about. And he admits it's not a traditional kind of thing. Your turn. Do a better job if you can.
Well, I don't know that I can do a better job. So, but this is the orientation for this piece. This is presented by the Huntington, and it's on view through
March
playing
23rd.
through March 23rd. It's actually been extended. So you go to the Huntington Theater on Huntington Avenue, but you're not going into the main theater. You actually go through a little alleyway, and you come in the back door, you wind your way up the stairs, and go into a rehearsal room that has become the theatrical space for this production. And you're met with an actor coming out asking the audience, and this isn't tiered seating, you're all sitting on the floor around in 3 sides around the stage, such as it is, with the performer asking you what brought you here tonight. Kind of in what state of mind are you? Did you have to pay the babysitter? Did you have to struggle with the tea, or you're driving? Things of that nature.
And do you have to
Basically-
respond out loud?
No, you just start thinking about
Okay,
it. However,
okay.
this is why I think you're probably already upset, Jim, is that there is some
Participation.
passive, I would say more passive audience
Gives me highs.
participation.
Okay.
So you're placed into this state of mind, and ultimately this about 65-minute show is asking you to stand up, sometimes literally stand up, to be present, to look at life, to be accountable, to remember. And so it's these different exercises in terms of thinking about your life that draws you there. It's hard to describe, which is why
What'd you think of it?
Don struggled. To be honest, it didn't resonate
Really?
with me. No.
He loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
he really loved it. And In any case, can we talk about audience participation for a second? I mentioned this past. When you go to a play with Jared, you get really good seats because obviously he's a critic and they want him to be able to see it. The one thing that we really have in common, he and I, is the terror we both feel when we think that one of the actors is going to approach you. And is that hard? Is that like? Can you describe the feeling?
Blue Man Group.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just try to slide down in your seat.
You really do.
Then you think, but I just moved, so now they're going to pick me because I just caught their line of sight.
But you know what's amazing? There are some real people, and sometimes you feel it's a setup because they're so great. There's some real people sitting in a back row. They call them up, and they're not only great sports, they participate in such an open, honest kind of. I just can't. It gives me. I cringe.
Remember when we were at Blue Man Group?
Yeah.
Didn't you go to the same one as I did?
No, I didn't, but I had the same experience with my kid. I went with my younger daughter.
Okay. I think I was sitting like 5 seats.
Oh, you were? I'm sorry. We didn't go together. You were? I'm sorry. You were in the same row.
Me.
No, I did. You were in the same. I'm sorry.
That's the story of my life.
Now the whole listening audience knows it's after 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's
really
it.
What's her name? We're not really sure.
No, I recognized. I knew you. I knew there was a woman I knew in the middle.
There we go. That's right.
Hey there.
So
how are you?
They had they had a woman that was like, I would say maybe in her mid-30s on the stage. They pulled her out of the audience. Remember, they put a big plastic thing over there, and they shot all this paint at her, and it was really, But she.
How about the older woman?
A woman who had to be like 80.
They put handcuffs on her.
They put handcuffs on this like 80-year-old woman,
and she was great.
She was a total good sport. So it's I don't know. They must have a way of figuring out.
We asked the Blue Man Group were on our show. We asked one of the performers. Remember, there's a drummer and a performer. Well, he's a drummer too. 2 performers. How do you select people? And they said exactly what you said.
Yeah.
They sort of get a sense from the stage who's going to be a good sport. What are you laughing about?
See what our staff wrote there?
No, I didn't.
They said the reason that you didn't notice me at Blue Man Group is because you couldn't interrupt me.
That's so funny. That is so incredibly.
I think it's a riot.
I'm surprised you haven't shared the highlight of the audience participation.
No,
for the one performer who didn't really read the audience because she chose Jim.
What was her name?
Meow Meow.
Meow Meow.
Meow Meow.
This is this brilliant burlesque performer. What country is she from?
Australia? I think Australia.
Australia, okay. So not only, and I'm on the aisle, Jared's inside complaining that I'm eating because he has that disease where he doesn't like when you're chewing, when you're sitting next to him.
And this is what you get for taking my aisle seat, by the way.
What's the name of that disease?
Misophonia.
Misophonia. He's got misophonia or whatever that is. Okay. And this woman, who is brilliant, by the way, she was really brilliant.
Amazing.
What's her name? Meow Meow?
Meow Meow.
Meow Meow. Who's a burlesque performer in this brilliant show. The first person she approaches at the beginning of the show, she walks up to me. And what does she ask me to do? To undo her corset. And literally, how did I handle that?
You didn't.
I didn't.
She spent about...
And she was disgusted, by the way. She really was.
She spent about a minute gesturing to just unzip it.
I couldn't do it.
And Jim was just trembling. It was fabulous to watch. It was
totally true.
I had my own private show.
It was totally humiliating.
Wow.
And she was disgusted. She moved on to the next person.
It's kind of surprising, given his, persona here, that he would be so reluctant.
It is hard.
I think he would just have the conviction to do that.
You would think he would be able to handle that.
I was afraid I was going to have a conviction if I did what she wanted. Okay, we're talking to Jared Bowen from the Culture Show and whatever else he does.
We need to talk about Moby Dick.
Yeah, this is at the ICA.
I think we have some sound of this too.
Oh, we do?
Oh, yes.
We do, yeah.
Yes.
So you want to listen
from
to
the Culture Show. Yes. Here's an artist who sang on the Culture Show talking about her video installation of Whales, a retelling of Moby Dick from the whale's point of view, and the significance of sperm whales.
And so that was kind of the starting point for me, was thinking about the depths of the ocean that are sort of beyond human comprehension. And I just think it's not a coincidence that Moby Dick was a sperm whale. I think that there is something very powerful about this particular species of whale.
Now, they talk a lot about grasping gelatinous blubber in this play. I didn't know what to make of that. Well, but what's going on here?
So Wu Sang, by the way, is a Worcester native and has now just rocketed up and is showing all over the world, has a theater company in Zurich. But she has become really fascinated. Speaking, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning about looking at other works. Not to say that Moby Dick is problematic or The Tempest is problematic, because I don't think people have seen them that way. But really looking at these canonical works and trying to decide what they represent today. This is, I think, why we see so many interpretations and variations of Moby Dick. And she's done 3 now. But this one that's at the ICA and it's on view through August 4th, you walk into one of the galleries, a giant gallery, and you see this huge, huge video screen that juts into the center of the gallery. And they have all these quite posh beanbag chairs, actually, so you can sit down and watch this film. And for this take on Moby Dick, this iteration, she has tried to look at it through the eyes of the whale, which you don't often see. It's through Ahab or Ishmael or a very literal translation of what Melville wrote. But here it is very much through the whale's perspective, and that's why she was talking about the sperm whales will go do a deep dive to the bottom of the sea, something we don't often see or experience, but then they rise up and can come out of the water in this blazing sun and clouds. But what's also interesting about this is that she's done this with the Unity gaming platform. So it's not a traditional film that you can just sit and watch from beginning to end, but it lives. It kind of lives and moves and changes on its own because it is part of a gaming platform. So it's always going to be different. It's always going to change. And there's this big 16-channel surround sound with it, so you kind of have the sense of the underwater sea, but she brings musicians in so that you have instrumentation with it as well, a lot of wind instruments. So it's a pretty magnetic installation that they have.
August 4th is when that's there till. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. What are you doing at 2 o'clock? Oh, this is Week in Review Day.
This is the Week in Review. We're talking about two very different number ones. Beyonce hitting number one on the country charts.
Yeah.
Texas Hold'em?
Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
Which
Very
is such a fun
controversial,
song.
right?
It is a great song.
Yeah, because a lot of country audiences aren't necessarily ready to have Beyonce in their company. And Kanye West, or Ye, is back, and his album is number one despite his anti-Semitism, despite his racism. So how is it that he rises to number one?
How is his art? Is it still good? I don't know.
It didn't get the greatest reviews. But then the biggest story that I think just hit today, Tyler Perry, who is building an $800 million expansion of his studio in Atlanta, just hit pause on the construction. Why? Because of the AI video iteration that came out last week.
Oh.
Wait a minute, I don't understand it.
Because he looked at the open AI in terms of video digital representation and thought, wait a minute, maybe I should not be building an entire soundstage and so forth, because this is a
blowback.
game changer. No, it's a game changer.
Oh, it's a game changer for AI.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a little frightening.
It's
So is that
very frightening.
So it's frightening. So I should be upset about it.
Yeah.
Okay, can I tell you, I can't take this.
I just want to know how I should feel about
Can I
this.
explain this to you?
We'll walk you through the feelings
I
of
was
the
going to
culture
say,
show.
listen to the damn show, okay?
I'll listen to the damn
By the way,
show.
how come you don't have a segment on audience participation? I'm serious about that. Everybody.
We'll get there. We're only 2 months in, 3 months
That's true.
in.
That's really. It show's great. It show's really great, and people should listen to it. 2 o'clock every single day with Jared Bowen and friends.
We're going to do it
Okay.
right after we have your balloon making animal. I haven't forgotten about that. We're
By
gonna
the way, the
book you
guy,
to make balloon animals.
wasn't Jeff Koons? Isn't he part of the thing that went to the moon that had the soft landing? Was Koons part of that or not?
I don't know. There weren't people in it. I wasn't as excited as I.
And
would
by
have
the way,
been.
can I just be clear for the audience, because I hate when we leave the audience confused. The Tyler Perry thing,
Yep.
he's either really against AI or really in favor of it.
Well,
one of the two.
I'm not sure how I should feel
Exactly.
about AI. I think it's okay. Then I think
Then
maybe
it's
not.
not.
Then I think it's okay.
No, that's
so
a really
I'm
good
trying
point.
to,
No,
get
I agree with
feedback
you.
on how I should feel
Yeah.
about
We're
this.
going to walk you through the whole thing and
Okay.
why
We'll be
this is so
listening.
significant.
Well, then we'll
Yeah,
listen. if
I'm
that's
worried
the
that
case.
chatbot GPT is going to take over our show. That's really
Yeah.
what I'm
That's
worried
true.
about. But hopefully
Yeah.
not for a couple of years.
Not a couple of years.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, Jared Bowen.
Thank you.
We have
thank
been
you, Jared
speaking with
Bowen.
Jared Bowen, GBH News Executive
Yikes.
Arts Editor and the host of The Culture Show. You say a lot of ridiculous things, too.
I do. I didn't say I didn't. Like what? Why are they applauding? What's wrong with these
Sustained applause.
Sustained applause, that's right. And The Culture Show airs daily at 2 o'clock right here on 89.7. Thank you very much, Jared
people?
Bowen.
Jared, we'll be listening.
After a quick break, we are checking in with Boston Medical Center's Dr. Catherine
That's a good one.
Gergen-Barnett. She's going to tell us about new rules on COVID isolation after you get the test. This measles outbreak in Florida, where they're not that keen on vaccines. And who knew? The endless versatility of Viagra. Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett is next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News and facebook.com/GBH News. Thanks to our colleagues who fix the feeds. Ask the Attorney General with Andrea Joy Campbell, 11 to 12 here on Tuesday live. And Ask the Governor, Maura Healey, here noon to 1 live, right in a row, 11 to 1 on Tuesday. And by the way, the fabulously talented Jenny Slate is going to zoom in about 20 minutes about her variety of things, including her fabulous, we watched it last night, new stand-up thing on Amazon Prime, premiering, I believe, tonight. Speaking of pretty talented, we're now joined by Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at BU Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Doctor, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Wonderful to be with you all.
Nice to be here too. So I read this story in the Globe a couple of days ago, and I couldn't really believe it. I hadn't really thought about it. We all know that the opioid crisis is horrible.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of people dying of overdoses. That people can be helped by methadone. I had no idea what you have to go through to get methadone. So tell us.
Yeah. So the story that you're referring to is actually good news. So
yeah, very good news.
There was recently, just earlier this month, on the 2nd of February, HHS, the federal government, passed new legislation which will go into effect on April 2nd, which is finally saying that people who are on methadone can get a prescription that they can take home. So since Nixon, there has been a rule since 1972 that people on methadone have to go and get daily medication. So I work at Boston Medical Center, as everybody knows. There's been a lot written about Mass and Cass. And we know that part of what's happening at Mass and Cass is there's a lot of different methadone centers there, and they are all aggregated in one area, which means that people have to go from far, far away, all over the state, come daily to get methadone treatment for opioid use disorder. And as we know, then there's a lot of aggregation. So for the first time, we're going to start to take this incredibly effective medication, take it out of the shadows, bring it to people so they can take it home, and it can stop being so stigmatized. It's an incredibly important medication.
Well, also, I was thinking, if you're trying to get sober here and you're trying to go back to work, or you're trying to take care of your kid, you can't do it if you have to drive in the traffic to Boston, stand in line for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't live your life.
Yeah, exactly. So there's the methadone, which we will talk more about, and there's also Suboxone, which we can, as providers in a regular clinic, and I do it, and we train residents to do it. Another medication you can give, but there's lots of medicine, and only 1 in 5 people who have an opioid use disorder actually are on the right medications.
Why is that?
And part of it is exactly what you were saying, Marjorie. So it's so disruptive. Think about trying to drive far, be in a really chaotic environment, which for a lot of people trigger some of, if they're back in a place like Mass and Cass, where there are a lot of people selling things also.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to stay sober even if you're going there for the right intention. And like you said, it causes a lot of disruption. So the hope is that finally, we can have people who can take this home. The fact is Markey and others are really trying to push for further legislation to say, not only should we say people can get it to bring back at home, but people should be able to get prescriptions like this in their regular physician's office. So not just at a special treatment center, which they're still going to have to do even with this new legislation, but that it will, again, become so non-stigmatized that it will be just a routine part of how we treat patients.
And the reason we are still operating with rules until recently from the 1960s is because there's still this notion, we discussed this with Michael Curry briefly the other day, that anything that an uninformed leader might describe as encouraging someone to engage in bad behavior we shouldn't do. So whether it's these safe injection sites and
Right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah,
That's the opposition, right?
That is absolutely the opposition. I think part of it is just lack of education around, how powerful methadone can be. First of all, it doesn't get people high. So the people really need to understand that. What it does is it hits the receptors in your brain where opioids can hit, and then, and it actually blocks those receptors. So people don't have this same kind of withdrawal that they normally would, but they don't get high. So it actually allows for a life of sobriety and stability without all the ups and downs and obviously all the economic and other consequences.
You know what's this won't surprise you.
Yeah.
When I was a legal services lawyer decades and decades and decades ago in the South Bronx, the primary work my paralegals did was to go to the neighbor community hospital to make access to methadone easier for people. This is decades and decades and decades ago. And it was proven then, the value, and it's proven now.
Absolutely.
And the last thing on this, and the reason the Biden administration, which did it unilaterally, didn't do this 3 years ago, is not to blame them, because they did it when no one else had. Why didn't the Obama administration? Why has this not been done?
It's a great question. I mean, I think there's finally, we became so acutely aware of the level of overdoses that were happening. Okay. It became so dangerous. And thinking about actually even just in kids and teens who are overdosing and dying. So 35, a huge number of these kids, the majority of kids who have died from an overdose have never once even tried an opioid. So this is a one and done situation, right? Because fentanyl is now out on the street and it kills you. So this is not a thing where you can wait a year and say, I've had an opioid use disorder for a year, therefore I want to get on methadone. For the first time, not only are we saying you can take it home, but you don't have to wait a whole year, right? So it's increasing access and is increasing the speed to get it.
We're talking to Catherine Gergen Barnett.
So Martha Beebinger over at BUR wrote a great piece talking about children and overdoses, about what pediatricians could do.
Yeah, so I think I actually had an opportunity to speak to some of my colleagues at Boston Medical Center who run a specialty clinic called Catalyst, specifically focused on teens and treating opioid use disorder for teens. And, we actually have Suboxone, which I talked about before, is FDA approved for 16 and up, and there's an injection called Sublocade, which is approved for 17 and up, and kids can go and get treatment. The fact is a lot of providers aren't doing it who could do it, so how do we increase the education that we are doing for pediatricians?
Is that why they're not doing it? Because they don't have the education to feel confident in doing it?
Part of it is about confidence, right, exactly. So Suboxone, any physician can prescribe Suboxone now. So there's not all the hoops and jumps that there is for methadone, and so I think that's a really important thing is being able to screen kids. So not just screening them sort of with a checklist, but talking to kids also about exactly what I was talking about in terms of the incredible risks of pills and powders. I tell my kids, and now there's you can smoke opioid stuff as well, but really just stay away from pills and powders. They could kill you.
I don't know if people, just for context, you may have already said this, you did, my apologies. I think a lot of people think because so many leaders in the state, I think starting with Governor Baker, who talked about it almost nonstop, and now Governor Healy, since there's so much attention to it, I think they think the problem is less severe. 2022, there were the most overdoses in the history of the Commonwealth, 2,200 and something. So it's not getting better despite the attention.
It's getting worse.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
2,359.
Is that what it was?
Yes,
that is
to be exact.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
Just frightening.
One of the things I think would be helpful is if people stopped exaggerating the horrors of other drugs, so kids don't believe them anymore.
Yeah.
Because,
What do you mean? Well,
this was hysteria about marijuana years ago. Marijuana, okay, you probably don't want to be smoking it at 12 years old, but it's probably not going to kill you or cause you to tear your hair out or something. Or the things about, I just remember growing up on my own kids at the DARE program in the schools.
Yeah,
hearing
just say no.
Things that were, I thought, ridiculous.
Well, look, I think the harm reduction model is always the best way to go, but there are, the risk of fentanyl when you don't know what you're getting and what you don't know what you're buying is real. So these kids are they're ordering things off the internet. And actually some kids are but dying from Adderall that they've ordered off the internet because it's laced with fentanyl. So these things are not actually approved. You do not know what you're getting.
This is Adderall that is not bought at your pharmacy.
Exactly.
Okay.
So kids are saying, I think I have ADHD. I want to go get some Adderall. It will help me. And they're not getting what they think they're getting.
So before we go to the next topic, how many people in the studio here know that there are new rules about when you can go back to work or school if you got COVID? Raise your hand if you know. That is exactly what I assume. Maybe 7 people in a packed room. This is the worst messaging. I mean, it's just what are the new rules?
Okay.
And why does nobody know about them?
So just the fact that we asked the audience, I think, indicates the amount of confusion. So the CDC has not actually come out with these rules. So the Washington Post is the one that broke the story. Dr. Lena Soon, who's amazing, and I think she's
on TV.
She's an amazing reporter. I love her stuff. She was the one that said the CDC guidelines are coming. The CDC hasn't announced it yet. But
Wait,
for
they
those,
still haven't announced
no.
it?
So for those who have raised
That's why they don't know about them, I guess.
for those who have raised their hands, what they do know, because there was a lot of reporting around February 14th, what they do know is that there's something in the works that we're talking about where the CDC is saying when you've been diagnosed with COVID, you do not need to stay in, irregardless for 5 days for isolation. What you do need to do is you need to wait 24 hours until you're fever-free, your symptoms are getting better, not on medications, and then you can come out. But there's no more guidance about how do you come out? What do you do in terms of masking? So there's been a lot of, I think, relief with some people, right, who say, great, let's treat it like flu, let's treat it like RSV, let's treat it like all these other respiratory illnesses we've talked a lot about on this show. And then the other side, which are, providers and folks in public health that say, okay, it's one thing to move along in that direction, but what are we going to do to still protect communities? What is the messaging that we're doing in terms of, do you just come out?
You're going to go visit your 73-year-old grandmother?
We know we're still infectious. And frankly, how can we actually work on a federal policy where people get paid sick leave? For me, that is one of the biggest things. It's like, don't just make it the easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Do something hard and protect people. Not because I think masking and isolation is always the right situation, but we know that people are going to be pressured to go back to work now.
Well, by the way, the good news on that front, and I don't want to criticize you, is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said as soon as God tells him to do it, he will pass legislation around sick leave.
Thank God.
So, when the guys from this old house have been on the show, Marjorie does something that is totally unethical. She pretends there's a texter or a caller who wants to know about whatever she wants to know. Is this true or not true?
A vicious charge.
Okay, she pretends.
I do know there was one case in which you asked about whether or not cleaners. The house cleaners could come back to the house.
That's her, exactly.
Or go, whether you could go swimming.
Let me get to my point.
I confess to that one. That's
so
right.
I'm going to be more honest than Marjorie is.
Yeah.
I love the house cleaners.
I am totally convinced I have long COVID. We talked about this when you were here last month.
Yeah.
I was supposed to call you. I forgot to call you. Now I read. And
You have long COVID. I forgive you.
I don't know if I do, but I'm really tired, and I take whatever. I'm tired.
And crabby.
And so I read last time. I've been always crabby long before COVID. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. When I'm speaking to you, I'll let you know. Okay? Thank you. Talking to the audience here. Now, as I was saying, I read last night that what I may be suffering from is leaky blood-brain barrier.
Leaky brain.
So what is that, and how do I fix that if that's what I'm suffering from?
Okay. So you are referring to some evidence that just came out by a group of Irish scientists, actually. It was published in this peer-reviewed paper called Nature Neuroscience. And it did a very elegant study, actually. It looked at people with long COVID and people who had COVID but don't have long COVID. and looked at a few things. One is they looked at the blood in these people and found that there is a protein that's normally just made in the brain. And for those people who had long COVID, they found it in the blood. So that indicates that there was some sort of leak from the brain and the blood. Normally things don't go from the brain to the blood. Okay, so that was the first indication. The second is they did a special kind of MRI that actually further supported this evidence that there may be some sort of leaking. They actually saw that there was a more porous boundary. I'm not going to even comment on whether or not you have a leaky brain. Jim.
You're leaking.
Leaky blood-brain barrier.
Okay, and then the
What kind of doctor are you? I'm not going to comment on whether I
I can
have a
see
leaky
it from here.
blood-brain
I can
barrier.
see it from here.
So what do I do about it if I have
well,
it?
this is the question. So this just came out this week. So
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing is, okay, if we know this, first of all, it just gives a lot of validity to people who are having this idea of brain fog, right? Because they're saying, we see evidence on MRIs, we see evidence on blood results. It is not just all in your head. This is very real, what's happening to you. So now we talk about, well, what can we do to target that quote unquote leaky barrier? And are there ways that we know that people who might be more at risk or people who may have symptoms now, we can mitigate that? I don't have the answers for you
So
now.
when you have the answer on what to do about
I
leaky
will
brain
come
barrier,
in.
you'll call me. Okay,
I will
fine.
come in. We have figured out some stuff around leaky gut, but we haven't gotten to leaky brain.
Can I ask you a favor?
I do not leak.
No, not about. Thank you.
Wow. Okay.
Excuse me.
You do.
I never
Okay,
thought
well-
I could be talking about this kind of stuff and have everybody
Yeah.
laughing.
Okay,
but-
we're probably gonna be fired at 2:00 too.
Yeah,
okay.
Can I tell you what I don't want to do? I just had an epiphany. Our next topic is to discuss this nauseatingly
We're moving on. We're moving on.
unprofessional.
We're moving on.
We'll go right to
Yes.
Viagra.
We'll go right to Viagra.
Fine. Okay.
Because I think
I thought we were going to have measles. No?
No, I don't want to talk about. I mean, there's a measles outbreak, and the Surgeon General in Florida, who endangered the lives
Yeah.
of thousands of people around COVID, is now endangering the
Yeah.
lives of kids. So let's not even talk about it.
So here's
Done.
the thing.
Yeah.
I think many people, every
Yeah.
time you forget, where you put your car keys, your glasses, or you can't think of somebody's name, you immediately think, oh my God, I'm getting Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Now I realize that what people that are worried about this should do is they should get some Viagra. Is that correct?
Okay, well, this is why I'm really glad I'm here
So are
to make sure these myths. I'm a myth buster.
Okay.
So I will say that is very interesting. Another study that came out that's saying there seemed to be some sort of correlation between men. This is a British study. Middle-aged to elder men who were on Viagra and those who were not, and doing a comparison study and saying that those who took Viagra were 18% less likely to develop Alzheimer's, and men who took Viagra frequently, I don't know, they didn't say exactly what that meant, were 44% less likely to get Alzheimer's. But let me just pause. So there's absolutely there's no causation in this study, okay? It's not saying the Viagra reduced Alzheimer's. It's just saying, wow, look, we've noticed these two separate things. But let me talk about what Viagra does, okay? Besides the obvious, what everybody knows, right? So Viagra was actually originally made as a medication to help with high blood pressure and angina, which is, chest pain.
I didn't know that till today, actually.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
So why is that? Because it actually dilates your blood vessels. Then Pfizer was doing this studying it, and they were like, wow, there's this really nice unintended consequence that it also gives men erectile, function.
Yeah.
So that's what they started marketing it for. But what we know is that Viagra across the board helps with dilation of blood vessels. So when I have somebody come into my office who has erectile dysfunction, I immediately start thinking about whether or not they have any other cardiac risk factors, like do they have high cholesterol, do they have high blood pressure, do they have diabetes, because those things can cause erectile dysfunction. So those things are correlated. together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. But the idea of the blood vessels in your head being dilated, I thought. I mean, I don't know any. I mean, you're the physician.
Yeah.
But that seemed to make some sense to me too.
Yes. So the other thing that makes a lot more sense. So there's no one who's coming out reading this literature. There need to be a lot more studies. First of all, and include women in these studies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't thought.
Because actually, Viagra as a cream is now in stage 3 trials, clinical trials for women. So we are also, let's talk about equity in that way, right? So
wait, for what purpose? Heart stuff?
For dilation, for
dilation.
menopausal,
Okay,
a lot of the
fine.
same things. We could have a whole show on menopause.
I mean, for sex?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so we really need to think about, first of all, doing better clinical trials. What we also know is that maybe men who are taking the Viagra were actually more active, right? Maybe they were having a different lifestyle.
Exactly.
We're not, all of those things, which are obviously going to be contributing factors to a healthier lifestyle. Fundamentally, we know some of the greatest things you can do to protect yourself from Alzheimer's is exercise, keeping your blood pressure down, keeping your diabetes in control, keeping your cholesterol down. Those are the things we do know
Can I ask
that
you
help with Alzheimer's.
one last quick question?
Yeah.
We have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
If you take Viagra a lot, as that study
Yes.
showed, and you have leaky blood-brain barrier,
I
how
mean,
does that affect the likelihood of getting...
That is a randomized control trial waiting to happen.
Check it out,
Right
will you?
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's great to see you, doctor.
Give the
Always
doctor
great to
your
be with
number
you.
just to
She has
make
my
sure.
number.
I have
It's
it.
okay.
Okay.
Call her quite
That's
regularly.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Nice to see you,
Thank you all
Catherine.
for having
Good
me.
morning. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Speaking with Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, she is the Vice Chair of Primary Care Innovation and Transformation at Boston Medical Center, Associate Professor at Boston University Medical School, and an Aspen Institute Health Innovators Fellow. Thanks a lot, Doctor, for coming in. Thank you very much. After a quick break, SNL alum and Oscar-nominated comedian, the terrific Jenny Slate, joins us over Zoom to talk about her new stand-up special on Amazon Prime that is out today. Jenny Slate joins us up next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Mark Regan and Jim Browdy. We're obviously live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. We're back on Tuesday with an hour of the Attorney General and an hour of the Governor. But first, we're joined on Zoom by a woman who starred in 2 Oscar-nominated films last year. One of them won. She's a comedian, a writer, the pride of Milton, Massachusetts, which, of course, just voted against affordable housing. No, it's not her fault. Jenny Slate.
No.
As of today, well, that's what she says. You can watch her brand new special, Seasoned Professionals. We watched last night, Marjorie and I did, on Amazon Prime Video. Here's a little taste of what you're in for. This is from the bit where she's riffing on her, how do I put this? Her infatuation with her therapist, Pamela.
I love my therapist, and I know you're not allowed to say that, but I love her. I love her. I love her. I love her, and I actually find that at this point to be the hardest part of therapy. that like when the session is over, you're not allowed to be like, okay, bye-bye, I love you.
We love Jenny Slayton. She joins us now. Jenny, congratulations. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much for being back with us, Jenny. So tell
Thanks
us.
for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to talk to you. Tell us a little bit more about your special.
Well, it's called Seasoned Professional, and I like to think of it as kind of a love story in reverse, meaning it doesn't start with when I met my husband. It actually sort of starts with us going to the hospital for me to give birth, and then reverses all the way back to not just, like the start of our relationship, but also to how I needed to grow as a person in order to be able to have the life that I want to have, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, toward the beginning, as you pointed out, you're talking about going to the hospital, and I think you said one of the things that is universal to every woman who's about to have her first child. You mean you're going to have to do this by yourself, that no one's going to rescue you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, what I find about talking about my comedy is that it comes off as really serious when I speak about it, but I promise the special is legitimately funny, I believe. But yeah, there's a feeling, I certainly had it, and I think many people can have it, that when you're about to go into the actual birth and you're like, oh, it's truly me alone. Like it's just, there are hopefully doctors and all the people that you want to have if you want them, but it really is about me. And
that's right.
There's not going to be another person, who can do this. It's going to be me. And that is a startling, singular experience.
Yeah.
Jenny Slayton, Margie and I have been on the air 25 years, and I asked her before if I've ever asked the following question of a guest, and Margie confirmed I have not. So this will be the first time. Can we talk about your breasts for a few minutes? Is that okay with you?
Hey, if that's what you want to do, that's what we got to do, I guess. I feel so bad for my parents and in-laws who are probably listening, but more bad for you, Jim. More bad for you.
By the way, we're not going to give it away. There is a bit, speaking of pregnancy, that Jenny does in this thing about her breasts and herself and looking at herself in the mirror that is about as funny as ever. I don't know if this is going to offend you or not. I watched your thing twice last night. I watched it in regular speed, and because then I was afraid I missed a couple of things, I watched it in 1.5, and it was just as funny in 1.5 as in 1. Do you take that as a compliment, or how do you react to that?
I mean, all I hear is just as funny. So
you're okay.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I like, the pacing that I have is the pacing that I'm able to have. It's, and that actually is a win in itself. Like, it's so hard to, I think that one of the hardest things is when people say, just be yourself. And actually, I think I said that in my first comedy special, which was called Stage Fright. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough to answer that question and to embody that, like, what is myself? So one thing I love about this special is when I watch it, for kind of one of the first times in my career, feel that I'm like, there I am. That's how I like to look. That's what I want to wear. That's where I want to be, in this beautiful old theater in Brooklyn that I used to go to when I worked in a local bakery, and I didn't know how to get into the entertainment industry. And
that's great.
So I take it as a compliment, Jim. Yeah, of course. Thank you, for sure. And thanks for watching it twice.
Well, here's another compliment. I mean, I'm not an expert on the history of stand-up comedy, but when I think of stand-up comics, I usually think of them as being male. And you obviously are a female. And I haven't heard a lot of stand-up comedy about birth and about your physical things that women go through, and about, when you're talking about breasts, I mean, you talk about what happens to your breasts when you're nursing, which is ba 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 boom, right? I mean,
majorly, big time.
Major, and they're very, I mean, I got a bunch of kids, I mean, these things are all very universal, but you don't usually get them, I don't think, in stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly some other incredible comedians that have spoken about their pregnancy experiences, like Amy Schumer, Ali Wong did a special while pregnant. And so, but I also think, of course, it's been a male-dominated field forever, even though female comedians have always been here. And it breaks my heart kind of every, 5 years when people are like, now's the time for women in comedy. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Rosalind Russell and, and Lucy and Gilda Radner and Madeline Kahn and Carol Burnett. And there's so many. But I think that what is exciting for me is the feeling that, yeah, people are talking about their bodies, and that's a wonderful advancement and an opening in the art form. But I'm also not like trying to do anything, if you know what I mean. I'm not trying to be subversive or make a splash, but I am trying to not stop myself and to make sure that in my wildness or in the liberation of my own voice that I'm still as entertaining as I can be to the largest amount of people possible, because I'm a performer, you know?
So we're talking to Jenny Slate, who literally not only lives half-time, and she's from Massachusetts, lives half-time in LA and
Yes.
half-time in Massachusetts at an undisclosed location. You know, we haven't spoken to you since you were in 2 Oscar-nominated films. You
Yes.
won for whatever the hell, Everywhere, Everybody, whatever it was called.
Yeah, Best Picture.
And one of the greatest films I've ever seen, Marcel, did not. And what I've wanted to ask is, since that night, and I can't tell you how much the 2 of us were rooting for you, by the way, but it is
Thank you,
what it
sir.
is, what it is. When you lose like you did then, and you have to pretend like you're thrilled for the person who won, what's it like? How do you do that thing where you applaud, you smile, like how great that I lost? How do you do that? How do you do that?
You know, I mean, at that point, like, I am actually a person from Milton, Massachusetts. There's not a part of me, although I have big dreams, and that is magical, and that having big dreams feels like living with magic. There's also a part of me that's like, I actually am the girl from Canton Ave, and now I'm here at the Oscars, and I'm nominated, and it is enough. Like, eventually you do reach capacity, so I felt really glad. But the other thing is, like, I'm not unhappy for Guillermo del Toro. Like, if anything, I want him to put me in one of his movies. So it's kind of a long game there. It's like, first of all, yeah, like, nobody in our category didn't deserve to, or they all deserve to be there. So it's also like a nerve-wracking experience. And I did tell this story on Jimmy Kimmel earlier this week, but my dress had split open. And so it was this feeling of like, well, here you go, girl, you made it to the Oscars, and like, your karmic retribution is that your dress is open and your butt's out. So in a way, I was relieved that we did not have to stand up, because I was just like, this is going to be an embarrassment on the scale that even I, a person who is almost consistently, constantly, always embarrassed, have never felt. And I thought I might just burst into flames. Like, I'm sad that we lost, but also it's fine. Yeah.
Wait a second, but you had to go on the stage when the other thing won.
I did.
How'd you maneuver that with the butt out? What'd you do?
I mean, I have completely dissociated and blacked out that the moment where I waddled up on stage, and I genuinely don't know. I honestly don't know. I just remember being like, do it, we're doing it, like, let's just go, and holding my dress shut and just praying to just stand still and get in the back of everyone. You know, I only had sort of a cameo in the film, so no reason for me to be up at the podium, but just standing in the back, holding my dress closed, and really trying to remind myself, like, this is humbling. Remember this, okay? Remember this.
This is Jenny Slate, by the way, seasoned professional. Her spectacular new stand-up is on Amazon Prime tonight.
Well, you said because the dress was so tight, I think you said it would be sewn in or something like that.
I did.
That you weren't going to be able to go to the bathroom during the Oscars. But I did wonder if you did get a chance, maybe later on when your butt was out, because what it must be like to go into the bathroom in the women's room at the Oscars.
Oh, that's a good one.
And comb your hair, put your lipstick next to all these superstars. I mean,
I know.
being around these people that you see, that's wild.
It's incredible. I in fact, am very obedient, believe it or not. And I did not go to the bathroom because I was afraid. So I actually never went. But it is, like it's truly astounding to see, like, Rihanna, who performed at the Oscars, to see her up close. It's very close to having, it is a spiritual experience, at least for me. I'm a gigantic fan. It's a thrill. I'm an actor also because I'm a fan of the entertainment industry.
Do people, they're there, you may not know somebody well, but you recognize, you kind of say, hey, how you doing, and good luck, or do people exchange little pleasantries, or is it just, I mean, what goes on when you're on your way to your seat?
I think people do exchange pleasantries, and I take the opportunity to say hello and like smile at basically everyone that I admire and love. And I think there are some people that I'm like, I really hope that one day I can meet this person. But generally, I think it's kind of scary to meet people you admire, just in case, like what if they don't like you? But if I ever got a chance to meet Tom Hanks, for example, in person, it would be hard not to hug him.
By the way, you two are talking like Jenny Slate is some bit player.
Well,
she's huge.
She's huge, but she's the Oscars.
No, you are
The
huge.
Oscars is kind of the hugest of the huge.
She's
so
got to go
It's the hugest of the huge.
Yeah.
It's the hugest of the huge.
Okay,
Yeah,
and you're the hugest of the huge. So wait a second. So in addition, I don't understand why you do so much, and we don't have time this time to talk about it all, so I won't. You're in a film. It ends with us. In addition to the stand-up tonight, that's coming out. You have a second book of essays that is imminently coming out too.
Next fall. Mm-hmm.
So where's the work-life balance with you and your great husband, Ben Shattuck, who's been on the show with us?
And your
Say
kid,
hi to Ben.
the little kid.
Oh, the kid. Where's the work-life balance before you go, Jenny?
I think it's very good because, a book is a lovely thing to do. I usually write in my bed. Like my mother-in-law, Dee Dee, comes to our house every morning at 6:30 and hangs out with our daughter. And I write. And then, by 2 p.m. I'm kind of done. This film, we made it last year, and it seems like a lot, but it's just odd timing. Like it comes out in a burst. But this special was filmed last April and then held because of the strike. So I'm happy that it seems like there's a lot that I'm doing and that my work is represented. But in fact, I think we have an incredibly rich daily life, which I really need as a person. I really need that. I'm not actually a workaholic in any way.
Great.
I like to chill out.
Well, the stand-up is fabulous. People should watch it, and we're thrilled to talk to you.
We
Say
are.
hi, and it's great to see
Me
you, Jenny.
too.
And
Thanks.
all of
Thank you
us
so much.
close to Milton are thrilled that a girl from Milton made it to the hugest of the huge, and she's a big star
She has.
now.
She's
and
huge.
I think
She
it was
is.
she's huge. And thank you very much for all your great work.
Well, I love you guys.
Thank
We're
you.
pretty fond of you.
I'm like your biggest fan. I listen every day, and it's genuinely such an honor for
Oh,
me
my
to be on
goodness.
your show.
Oh my goodness.
I when I saw you in person, I brought my Polaroid camera, I believe, and took a picture with you. It's on our fridge.
That's right.
I love you guys, so thank you for having me. I'm
Do you
very
know,
proud.
Jenny,
Thank
before you go, the first time you were on with your husband, do you know my pants ripped and my butt was out? Did I ever? I never told. I'll tell you next time.
I didn't know.
Jenny, it's great to see you. Be well.
Yeah, thank
Good
you
luck.
so much. Congratulations.
Great Jenny Slate.
We've been talking
Thanks,
with Academy
guys.
Award nominated comedian and Pride of Milton, Jenny Slate. Her new special is available
great.
on Marcel Prime as of today. And the movie that didn't win, but it was such a great movie, Marcel the Shell.
I've probably watched, but in all seriousness,
She starred.
maybe 5 times.
And the voice is just great, and the essays are terrific. Life Form that we mentioned. Anyway, and the thing tonight is on Amazon Prime as of tonight. The new comedy special, Jenny Slate. Okay, after a quick break, I have one word, Jim. Squirrels, a furry park companion or vile beast-eating foe. A new piece in the Washington Post grapples with our relationship with the little guys, little critters. We're going to open the lines to hear how you feel about squirrels. Apparently, there's a lot of very close relationships between man, woman, and the squirrel kingdom. That's next. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, facebook.com/GBH News. As we've said, the next day we're here is Tuesday from 11 to 12. Andrea Joy Campbell, the Attorney General, will be with us for an hour to Ask the Attorney General. Immediately following the news at noon, Maura Healey, the governor, will be here for an hour of Ask the Governor. That's Tuesday next week at the library. And starting March 6th, which is a Wednesday, we're really excited. We're expanding the number of days we broadcast from the wonderful library with the wonderful Newsfeed Cafe to 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. For the rest of the show, as Marty said, we're going to shine a spotlight on what some would describe as the lovable, furry acrobats of the urban jungle, squirrels. That is, if they're not wreaking havoc in your backyard, eating all your birdseed, infiltrating your home, chewing wires inside your EV. We're inspired by a piece in the Washington Post today on how to peacefully coexist with squirrels. We want to know how you coexist with these little punk rodents. Maybe you like them enough, you've come up with names for the frequent faces in your yard. Maybe you have special lunch dates in the common where you share a couple nuts here and there. Or on the flip side, are you a proud member, this really exists, it was in the Washington Post, of this exclusive Squirrel Haters of America Facebook group. It's started by this guy, Bill Carver, who lives in an RV surrounded by what he calls his enemies. Those would be the squirrels. Do you believe squirrels just want to have fun, or are you secretly plotting their disappearance with intricate squirrel booby traps? The number is 877-301-8970. And I also want to add the question, Marjorie, that I have been unable to answer since I was a little boy, and my mother said it to me. Have you ever seen a baby squirrel? And I believe the answer from every honest person is no. And if the answer is no, the question is why. 877-301-8970. So you pro-squirrel, you anti-squirrel, where are you?
Well, I have this, I have a nice back porch.
I know you do.
And there's a black squirrel that's on my back porch all the time.
Oh, it's the same one?
It's the same. Well, I don't know how many black squirrels there are. I think it's the same one. And you know, I mean, I've had squirrels in my house. I've had squirrels in the attic. I sometimes think I hear squirrels now in the wintertime. I get a little nervous, a little pitter-patter up there. But yeah, I mean, you know what's great about squirrels?
No.
They're persisting. They're still alive. We talk to Cy Montgomery all the time about how this species is disappearing, that species is disappearing. They're sturdy little critters, and they're doing fine out there. I know people who have bird feeders don't like them, and I know people get kind of freaked out in their gardens and stuff like that. But I'm definitely pro squirrel, Jim. I love to watch them jump from the highest branches on the trees. You know,
it's
I
like
love
romantic.
to like them watch across the electric wires. Coming out. I mean, they are great little acrobats, and they're very cute. Even when I've had them in my house, when my poor younger daughter had a bad experience with a squirrel in her bedroom.
What happened?
Oh, there was a squirrel in her bedroom.
And
we waited too long to get the squirrel. You know, we could hear the squirrels in the yard.
So what did you do about
anything
that?
about it. She closed the door and ran out, and the squirrel disappeared. It was in her windowsill. She had the window open, and the squirrel was in her windowsill, and it confronted her, but she escaped.
You know they're rodents. You know that.
I know they're rodents, but they're not ugly rodents like rats.
Well, except when you told the story about your daughter, you know what film it reminded me of? The Birds. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. I find them relatively scary. I keep my distance for the most part. You know what I did a couple of years ago against my better judgment? I actually fed a squirrel, and I was a little nervous. They have teeth, obviously, right?
I
guess they must have teeth.
I was afraid. Acorns,
I was
so
forced out of embarrassment to hold an acorn or something, and I was afraid the thing was going to bite me. It didn't. It just takes it and runs away. But we want to know what your relationship with squirrels is. Do you remember when we had the retired doctor, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Federico Arrebia, who is one of the sweetest men ever. Tell his story before we take calls.
Well, there was an injured squirrel, and they found the squirrel in his yard, and he was a physician.
Christopher Muther wrote this piece for the Globe.
Yes, and he basically nursed the squirrel, little Pepito, back to life. He had like a little wheel, like a hamster wheel for the squirrel, a little squirrel wheel, and he had a little splint on the squirrel, and he wrote a whole book about this.
He gave it physical therapy.
He gave it physical therapy, that's right, and he fed it. He had a little baby bottle that the squirrel drank out of, and the squirrel recovered basically in his little squirrel house that he built for him. And the squirrel, then when he got better, used to live in the grill, which is a dangerous place, but you know he wasn't grilling anything at the time. And
luckily
the squirrel would come visit him.
I know.
for as long as the squirrel lived. The squirrel disappeared, I think, one day, as I recall.
I don't remember. He wrote a book. It's called, I looked it up, The Amazing True Story of Pepito the Squirrel. And the doctor's last name is Erebia, and it's totally charming.
It's a great book.
And by the way, Jamie has started a very dangerous trend. Jamie he's our lead producer, allegedly. He does these AI pictures of me doing horrible things. Now Nicole's doing it. Here's an image, which we will not post, thank you, of Jim being chased by a squirrel. Looking terrified, which is not unlike how I would look. Thank you, Nicole.
The squirrel is not even up to your ankle bone, Jim.
877-301-8970. We want to know what your relationship is with the squirrel population in your life, in your backyard, in a park, whatever. Let's start in Providence with Jason. Jason, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey guys, good to talk to you. It's Jason.
Hi, Jason.
Art guy.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
How are you?
A few years ago.
Hi.
Yeah,
Good to talk to you.
So you guys can help my wife and I, who may be listening.
Yeah.
Settle a newlywed dilemma.
Great.
So the situation is this: we have squirrels who have taken over our attic, and our bedroom is on the third floor, and so we don't sleep in there anymore. We sleep in our guest room.
Because of the squirrels?
Because of the squirrels.
Oh my God.
So we had a guy come out from Big Blue Bug.
Yeah.
And he said, "Can you make some of the noises?" And we were like, "Eep, eep, eep, eep." And
it's a very good
like
imitation.
around 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good impression.
It is, yeah.
And we said, yes, about 5 o'clock in the morning. And he said, "My friend, you guys have squirrel babies living in your attic."
Oh my God.
So we're like, okay, so can we just get them out? And he said, well, by the laws of the state of Rhode Island, you have to let those squirrel babies grow up, which takes like months before they can do anything.
Yeah.
So then he said,
Jason, can I just tell you one thing? Jason, this is not an answer to your question. We want to hear what your question is. The show is over in 20 minutes. Just be aware of that. So go ahead. So keep going.
I'll get to the point.
No, it's an excellent story.
We have two options.
Yeah.
We have two options. Number one, they can let the squirrels out on our property. Or number two, they can execute them.
Oh,
well, that's really... And so you're asking us for advice?
If they let them out on our property,
Yeah.
they're going to try to come back in.
That's an excellent... Well, wait a second. If you let them out on your property, just close the damn holes and they won't come back in. How about that?
But they're probably going to chew in another way.
Oh. Well, how about selling the house?
That's the third option. We hadn't thought of that one.
Is this causing any tension in the new marriage, or how you two doing?
Not yet, but we have different opinions on it.
Whoa,
So,
let's hear the opinions. What are they? Who's pro execution?
I will just say that for me, I consider them to be our guests. And
our guests?
I don't think you should execute your guests.
You shouldn't execute your guests. And Jason,
That's a good rule of thumb.
Before the squirrels showed up at my daughter's bedroom, which is also on the third floor, we had squirrels in the attic for about 15 years. So you got a long time before they managed to eat their way through. If they're up there in the attic having a good time, they won't necessarily eat their way through. So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
So that didn't answer your question.
Yeah.
Before you go, have you seen any of these baby squirrels? Because no one's ever seen a baby squirrel. Do you see a baby squirrel?
No. We haven't.
Exactly my point.
We have not seen them. Certainly heard them.
Okay, we have some sound of squirrels.
Jason, have your wife call the show before 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you for posing the dilemma you're suffering through.
We have two sounds of squirrels.
We do?
Yes. The first one is the sound of a squirrel call. It's the beautiful sound of a gray squirrel. Here it is.
That is not a squirrel.
It's
like a crow.
No, it's a squirrel chirping.
No, it's not. Okay,
Yes,
what's the other one?
And here's a clip of a squirrel song by Sesame Studio.
Oh. How did that advance our discussion in any way? Really? What did you do there?
It reminded me of Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, I loved Alvin.
Didn't it remind
Aren't they
you of
from
Alvin?
Worcester? Did we have this
I don't
discussion
know.
a few months ago? Let's not have it now.
Okay.
Okay, we're talking about squirrels because the Washington Post talked about it. And we want to know which side you're on. If you're divided like that recently married couple, he says, I don't execute my guests, which obviously meant that his wife does believe in executing their guests. Let's hear what Susan in Marblehead thinks. Hello, Susan. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
My thing is, it's their planet too.
Exactly.
That's a really
You know?
good attitude, yeah.
And I'm in Marblehead, and there's coyotes everywhere and all that stuff. And I hear everyone complaining about wildlife. And I think it's good for us to remind ourselves that we took over their land and their
Oh, my God.
world, you know.
Okay, so wait a second. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I lived in New York City for 25 years, and the squirrels in Madison Square Park would like do your taxes. I mean, they were very, very smart, you know. And the tourists loved that you could feed them and come and sit on your lap and all that stuff. And then when I moved to Marblehead, I had 3 squirrels in the backyard, and we named them because I'm weird that way. And there was Lefty, who was missing an eye, and then there was Chubby, who later came back with babies, so she wasn't chubby, then she became mama.
So you saw a baby squirrel then?
Did you see a baby squirrel?
Oh, yeah.
No, you did.
Yeah. But they usually stay in the nest for a long time.
Oh, okay,
And I know
until they're
this
not baby
because-
squirrels.
Yeah, or until there's a certain generation.
Okay.
Something like that. But the squirrels that were in my backyard, they would eat a peanut out of my hand. And one time I left the sliding door open, and Mama knew where the peanuts were, and she's standing in the kitchen looking up. And I freaked out a little bit there. I was like, okay, you need to go outside. Okay, you know.
Wow.
But, and lastly, I knew I was a squirrel person when there was a nest across the street in a tree in my neighborhood, and I heard hawks.
Oh.
So what'd you do? What'd you do?
I was devastated. There's nothing I could do. I have to go. It's the circle of life, you know.
Oh,
but,
that's horrible. Hey,
yeah, that's what I was like. Oh.
Susan, since you're an excellent caller, in response to the prior caller, are you of the school that believes in executing your guests or not executing your guests? Which side are you on there?
No.
You're against.
I'm the person who would joke that we'd like open up a petting zoo or something like that, or teach them how to ride a tricycle.
Susan, you're great. Susan, that was another excellent call. Thank you for making it. We appreciate it. Susan from Marblehead. The number is 877-301-8970. We're talking about your relationship with squirrels.
My husband keeps a loaded super soaker to ambush porky, fatso, and chonkers when they invade our feeders.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You shoot water at them?
I guess he does.
Don't you think that's a little cruel?
Aaron and Hopkinton love squirrels for their acrobatic and their antics. I do hunt and also enjoy them as table fare. Oh my goodness. Just led a mentored hunt earlier this month. So I guess people go out and hunt squirrels.
Our staff is so strange. Listen to this from Hannah. I'm always impressed by northern squirrels. Really? So fluffy. The ones in Florida, she says, are kind of scraggly with thin tails.
Good, because I don't like Florida anymore.
Okay,
I don't like Floridian squirrels.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Some people use Sherry.
Oh,
from
don't do
Dover.
this if it's gross. Don't do. What are they?
Well,
do?
he doesn't shoot them.
What does
Sherry
he
from
do?
Dover says her husband uses a BB gun just to keep them off the bird feeder. I guess
Well, that's not kind.
They run away. Red squirrel, yes, she says. Gray squirrel, no. I don't know the difference.
Nor
do you?
do I. No, I don't. Okay, Mary. By the way, if anybody, and this is a serious thing, if anybody's got a real photograph of a baby squirrel, rather than just saying you've seen one, if you can email it to, what is our thing? BPRWGBH.org. BPRWGBH.org. Where do you want to go?
Let's go to Mary in Dartmouth. Hi, Mary.
Hello, Mary. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I am the proud caretaker of 4 squirrel-proof bird feeding stations in my backyard.
And what does squirrel-proof mean? How are they squirrel-proof?
Well, it took me a long time, but we eventually got there. They have to have absolutely nothing near them that can serve as a launch pad.
Yeah.
They have to have 2 baffles on them, and so far, so good.
Wait, 2 what on them?
Baffles. There are baffles that you can get that go around the pole that holds the bird feeding. Yeah.
Do you know what they also
we
have?
learned that
I'm sorry,
after-
go ahead.
Oh, we learned that after I watched the squirrel launch itself from sitting on the ground over the baffle to get to the bird food.
That's pretty incredible. You know, Mary, they have, you know those, as seen on TV things, those ads that are on like for an hour at like 1 a.m. or something? They have, I thought you were going to describe, this is sort of cruel. I described it to Marjorie. She didn't like it this morning.
It's not the dog thing?
No, not the dog thing.
Okay.
Where these bird feeders have like a thing where when a creature of a certain weight, which is more than a bird would be, namely a squirrel, puts its feet on it, it flips the squirrel around, like 100 miles an hour in a circle until the squirrel is like thrown into the yard. Feet away. Marjorie thinks that's cruel. I think it's probably fun for the squirrel. So that's another possibility
I don't know.
you can consider.
they're
Mary, thank you.
spinning around like faster than the speed of light.
By the way, did you see the photograph, this red squirrel that our colleagues put up with the ears? Have you ever seen this in your
I've
life?
never seen ears like that.
We can't post this, right? This is whatever. It's like ears. It's like a rabbit kind of thing, like sticking straight up off their heads kind of deal.
Paul says, according to Roadkill Weekly,
Yes.
squirrels are delicious with fava beans.
By the way, people
and a nice Chianti.
Well, there we had this. Yeah, okay, fine. So, do people eat squirrel? Like, people eat squirrel?
It's somebody who goes hunting for them with his buddies. Yeah.
To eat them, or
a lot
just
of people don't like them though. They think they just rasp with bushy tails and a nicer,
well, they are
more
rodents.
attractive
They are rodents.
outer coat. Oh. Laura from Lexington says, my family loves squirrels. I have seen baby squirrels. When I was a kid, we found a nest in our yard that had been abandoned.
Oh.
We found out how to take care of them until we could get them to rescue. We put them in the shoebox with a light bulb for heat and a baby bottle to feed them. And my parents put peanuts out for the squirrels too. And somebody else texted earlier that they found baby squirrels. Sometimes they fall out of the nest, maybe after the hawk doesn't get them all.
Yeah.
And they took the squirrel to the Tufts in Grafton, the vet school up there.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
Yeah.
By the way, if we had Cy Montgomery today, you know what she would tell us? Oh, I lived with red squirrels for 6 months back in 2021 or something.
She would.
I mean, she is the exception to old rules in terms of interspecies relationships. In New Hampshire is Roger. Roger, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, thanks, guys. I love your show.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for mentioning Cy. She's terrific.
One of the greatest ever. Yep.
So when I was a teenager, a storm broke up a tree, and a baby squirrel. We found a baby squirrel on the ground.
Oh.
I ended up bottle feeding it, keeping it in my locker at school, and raising it. In fact, I just recently found a 35 millimeter slide of Jonathan Livingston squirrel on my shoulder.
Wait a second. As a baby?
Well, he was, let's say he was an adolescent.
Okay. So wait a second. So the only part, that's a heartwarming story kind of thing. But what do you mean you kept it in your locker at school? I mean, what do you mean you keep it in your locker? How do you do that?
Well, my mother refused to feed it, and when I was at school. So I brought it to school under my coat, put it in my locker, fed it in between classes.
Oh, my God.
And there you go.
That's actually a beautiful story.
That is a beautiful story.
And what happened in the end? Did you tell us? What'd you do in the end? Did you tell us?
It was delicious.
I fell for it. I feel like such a jerk. Roger, thank you.
No,
he's kidding.
I did release him in the
Good for
fall
you.
afterwards.
Good.
But for months, he would come down to our deck when we whistled for him, and it was terrific.
Oh, my God. I love this. That's a great story, Roger. Let's leave it there because I don't want to hear about the eating thing.
Listen to
Roger,
this.
thank you.
This is from Dan, also in New Hampshire.
What'd
My
he say?
grandmother had a squirrel that would bang on the kitchen door till she put out the day-old chocolate donuts.
Wow.
And somebody else is reminding us not to forget the charming and endearing children's book, Those Darn Squirrels,
Never heard
by
of it.
Adam Rubin.
Nope.
Old man Fuquire, a hermit living in the woods who loves birds, struggles to defend his bird feeders against the local squirrels, which he calls those funny little geniuses.
That's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to have relationships with the squirrels in their neighborhood, Jim.
Huh.
Uh-huh.
Is that it?
Yeah, apparently, according to Jerry in East Providence, there's a Seinfeld episode about George hitting a squirrel with his car and his girlfriend convincing him to take the squirrel to the vet for surgery.
Wow.
Do you remember that Seinfeld?
No.
I don't either.
Wait a second. We have a red squirrel picture on the BPL screen now, meaning facing out towards them. I mean, do you see a red squirrel thing? What do you think of those ears? Does that do anything for you? You don't care. Nothing. They don't care. Okay. So that was a red squirrel. Do we have sound from the
we have Seinfeld from the Seinfeld. Oh, God, it was right in front of me. Sorry about that. Here is the sound from the, this 2006 movie? Am I got the wrong thing
This
here?
is a smoothly
Steve
run
Carell,
show.
Over
Can
the
we
Hedge,
agree
is
on that?
Or Jamie's turning the page. Thank you,
thank
Jamie.
you.
Jamie has turned the page, and now I'm back in gear here.
Okay.
Here's the Seinfeld episode with George's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Doctor, how's the squirrel?
Is he dead? No. Fortunately, these special tiny instruments arrived just in time.
One more thing, Mr. Costanza. We just need to know what time you'll be picking him up tomorrow.
What's that?
Oh, we're discharging the squirrel. We think he'll be better off at home.
He has no home. He's a squirrel.
Then he probably got a $300 vet bill and refused to pay it right after that.
We have time for another one or two. Where do you want to go?
Okay, Steve in Plymouth. Thank you for calling,
Hey,
Steve.
Hi.
Hi.
All things squirrel.
Yeah.
There's plenty of black squirrels in Plymouth. The only way to keep a squirrel out of your bird feeder is to put a slinky on the pole. They're very smart, and the slinky is so unstable when they try and climb it, they get spooked out and they won't come back to it.
By the way, does everybody know what a slinky is? Do they still have them, or is that a function of
Now, hold on for a second,
decades ago?
Steve. A texter just says, I attached a slinky around the pole. It used to be entertaining watching them bounce up and down, but they figured it out and just push it to the top and jump on the feeder.
Wow.
What do you think about that, Steve?
How about it, Steve?
Not a chance. I mean, unless you're talking about a tiny little pole. If you have an 8-foot pole about and you stretch that thing way out, as soon as they put their weight on it, they start to sag and fall off. They won't come back.
Okay. Well, you
so
sound pretty. What's that?
Oh, I'm certain of it. I've tried the Vaseline stuff and the hot pepper and all that. So the red squirrels are like a chipmunk on steroids, and they're very vicious. If you relocate a squirrel, it's against the law. And if you kill a squirrel, the MSPCA can come down and arrest you.
They should.
Well, I had they gave me my rights because I killed a skunk one time.
Yeah.
Who I thought had bitten my daughter.
Oh.
And the woman was going to arrest me. I said, I'd kill anything that bit my daughter.
Did you plead out, or what'd you do?
Oh, no, it didn't go. Didn't go anywhere because the animal control officer never told the MSPCA that there was a 5-year-old girl involved.
Got it.
So
all right.
Not this.
Well, obviously, you have a lot of experience with squirrels
We're glad
and skunks.
Steve didn't get caught doing 3 to 5.
That could have been a scary situation.
Could have been a very scary
could have done
situation.
time because
Okay,
of that.
could have done time.
Did we
that's
resolve
right.
any of this?
No, we did not.
Do we have
but-
any photographs emailed of baby squirrels, or is no one? They haven't emailed anything. Okay, fine.
Okay, we are done for today. Thank you very much for listening to Boston Public Radio. Thank you for people that came down to the Boston Public Library.
Oh, can
We
I
really
interrupt you, by the way?
appreciate that. What?
There are relatives of a very good friend of mine, Beth and Michelle. If you're here and you were supposedly here, please come say hi before you go. And if you're not here, don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. We have a podcast called Boston Public Radio.
Yeah.
You can listen to it anytime. One is the whole show, and one is part of the show, the highlights of the show.
Yeah.
Tune in on Monday. We're going to be joined by GBH News analyst Charlie Sennett on the 2nd anniversary of the tragedy in Ukraine.
This
Oh my
is
God.
supposed to be
There's a
me
picture.
and AI with a damn squirrel. I mean, and there I am. This is horrible. So humiliating.
Okay. Besides Charlie Sennett, we're going to be joined by retired federal judge Nancy Gertner, our media maven Sue O'Connell, the Reverends Iron Monroe and Emmett G. Price III, and our food policy man Corby Cummer. We want to thank our great crew: Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Squirrel fan Hannah Loss, additional support from Ethan Kotler. Nicole found do we mention it?
What?
Facebook Haters of America.
Yeah, she did. It was the
on
Washington
Facebook?
Post thing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our engineer is John the Claw Parker, and additional support from Ethan Kotler, and of course our executive producer is Jenny Bologna. We want to thank the crew here at the Boston Public Library. That would be Maddie Geyer, Matthew Glover, Carly Cochran, and Isabella Karen. Stay tuned to GBH 89.7 for the Culture Show's Week in Review, which is always really fun. It's on right after us, after the NPR and the local news.
Did you
at
thank
2 o'clock.
them for coming?
I did. I
Thank
thanked
you
them
all for
already.
coming. We
I thanked
really
them
appreciate
Yes,
it.
I did thank them
Thanks
very
a
much.
lot. That's great.
And that's kind of it. We're done too.
That's sort of it. Yeah.
Okay,
The show's over.
Show is over. I'm Marjorie Egan.
And I would be Jim Browdy.
You would
then.
be Jim Browdy.
I
Thank
am.
you again for
Thank
tuning in
you.
today. Thank you to people down at the
Thank you.
library. Thank you to all you guys.
Yeah.
Hope you have a great weekend and hope you can tune in on Monday.
Bye.